Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Because President Wynn is not here this evening, unless he comes, we will take hand votes, if that's all right. So I would like to call for a approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand. 5 ayes. Next, we move on to student report. Superintendent.
Okay, let's see. Sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Who do we have going first today? Let's see. Newark Junior High, who are our representatives from? There you are. How you guys doing this evening? Good, good. Welcome.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Shane Nelms, the ASB Vice President at Newark Junior High School.
And I'm Todd Kawabata, the ASB President at Newark Junior High School.
Many things have been accomplished, such as new school gear designed, ordered, and received.
We created designs for a hoodie and a t-shirt, which are being sold in our student store.
All right.
Nice. All right. Oh, I like them. Do you have adult sizes?
Yeah.
2X.
We also had a Halloween carnival with fun games and prizes to celebrate Halloween.
Just today, our leadership class at NJHS did our second bowling presentation of the year. We do these presentations to raise awareness about bowling and take one big step towards becoming a no place for hate recognized school.
One very large project the leadership class worked on was our Tiki Bash. It was a very fun night with food, music, and dancing.
Our cross-country boys varsity team recently won the championship meet at Bancroft Middle School. They defeated over 6 other teams. We had 4 male runners in the top 10 for varsity. Our varsity girls team took 6th place and had 1 girl in the top 10 7th graders. We also had 2 8th grade boys place in the top 10 for junior varsity.
Many clubs have been started at NJHS, such as the LGBT Club, the Drama and / Acting Club, and 2P clubs, which are big hits among the student body.
Finally, the students in leadership have planned and started a canned food drive. We are rewarding the top can-bringing classes with parties to encourage kids to participate. These donations will provide food for those in need in our community. The donations will be made to Viola Blythe.
There are some great things coming up at NJHS to encourage a positive climate between staff and students. We are planning more events like a no-hands pie eating contest. We will also be planning a Toys for Tot drive to help those in need in our community. To further develop a positive school climate, we will be planning a Christmas carnival in the quad. We will plan and host a bunch of seasonal games for staff and students to participate in.
Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I'm curious as to where we can leave food for you for your canned food drive. How would we go about doing it if we wanted to do it? I mean, you could give me your room numbers if you have a contest or.
Yeah, it is more of a contest, but if you want to, you can always just drop it off into the office.
And how long is that going to be going on?
I believe till the end of, before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so this next week, next couple weeks. Okay, thank you.
I had if you don't mind, when you deliver to Viola Blythe, do you need help with that? Because I can be available. They come by and pick it up.
Yeah, they come by, pick it up, and then distribute it.
Okay, great. Thank you. President Thomas, or we had with the superintendent has said that we would make it available for any Spanish speakers to have. So it would, could that be part of the when we start the meeting where we ask if anybody
Yes,
needs
good point.
translation?
Yes.
Good point. That was oversight.
We do have a translator available if anyone has a need. She's in the back of the room. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next we move on. Oh, the superintendent still.
Yeah, anyone representatives from McGregor campus? Come on up.
Hello. Good evening, Superintendent Sanchez, Ms. Salinas, and board members. My name is Joseph Rivera, and I'm a senior at this point. And the two-pay peer educators went on a field trip September 20th to Dublin High School for an all-day training on tobacco products and marketing. We participated in a mock trial for the victim who died from a lung cancer due to smoking. I played the victim's family member. That experience taught us a lot. There are about 11 of us who meet with Gene Jeffrey once a week for more training. We would be going to the Newark Junior High to meet with students. There was a Halloween costume contest, and there were 10 participants and 5 winners. Prizes were donated by staff and our principals. The second quarter started last week. We have about 7 new students with more coming next week.
Good.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sierra, I'll let you lead the Newark Memorial.
Hi. Okay, I wasn't here last meeting, unfortunately, because I had some mandatory practices for water polo because our championships were coming up and all the smoke that was coming down, all the after-school activities were canceled, so we had to make up for it. A little update that I would have said in the last meeting was on Spirit Week. The juniors won.
Why is that so important?
Because I'm a junior, and we beat the record. I mean, it's always been an unheard of thing where seniors just automatically win. So we won with our skit of Moana, so that's pretty cool because they put so much work into it, and I'm so proud of them. Seniors got second place, and then respectively sophomores and then freshmen. Let's see. Yeah, they were so mad. For actually the next morning, they refused to come to class. At leadership, they all ditched.
Moving on.
Sorry, upset. Okay, leadership is also, for us, we are currently having a canned food drive. Every year we typically have around 20 to 30,000 cans donated for us to also donate to Viola Blythe. We are also currently, well, not currently, pretty soon we're going to have our adoptive family. We do this every year also. We adopt several families just from around the area. They're anonymous, and there could be people simply in our classrooms that we just get to help and love on and provide for things that they don't necessarily get. If you would like to help donate for that, please contact me, because we would love to just reach out to more families and just really touch them, especially in the holiday season. Let's see. Currently, we have volunteering for science camp open for the high schoolers. So all the high schoolers that get to hang out with all of their elementary school kids, all within our district, it's pretty awesome. So that is happening right now. And then for grad night, we have filled up 6 whole buses. We had 5 buses, but then there was more and more people pouring in, so we had to actually call up Disneyland and be like, hey, we need another one. We only have 4 spots left, so they've been just trickling away every single day. Another update is Newark Memorial now has a color guard. If you don't know what a color guard is, it is where they have the flags and they run on the field and they pretty much just pump up like all the spirit. And the next performance they're going to be doing is at the San Francisco Veterans Parade in November. So if you would like to go to that, that would be awesome. Let's see, this month, there's going to be several colleges visiting campus. Just I believe, if not next week, the week after, UC Santa Cruz will be there. So it's awesome that all of these colleges visit campus and all the seniors really take advantage of it and get to talk to the admissions people, and it's just really helps them in their support on looking for real four-year colleges or any colleges that they thought like maybe they weren't able to get into. Club news, I want to actually bring attention to Med Club. Although I'm not in this club, my good friend runs it. They are once again partnering with Washington Hospital, where they actually get exposure and get to work at Washington Hospital and get training to see how it is to work within the medical area. And that's pretty awesome for the students there because you don't get that exposure like every day. Walkathon was a few weeks ago, and girls tennis won for 3 years in a row. So congratulations to them. Winter sports started just as of yesterday. This means it is wrestling season for me. It's also basketball and soccer season too. Let's see, a cool update for our girls wrestling program though. We have now entered our own girls duels league. If you don't know what this means, this is typically unheard of throughout the nation, if not the world. Girls wrestling isn't very popular, or it's like, oh, like girls can't do that. So we're taking a huge step by entering our own league. And then we have a huge target on our back because a lot of us are state champions, and we beat James Logan by taking the NCS team title last year. So if you want to come see us in action, on December 2nd, we are hosting the Ironman Duels. So that's just at Newark Memorial. So come by and watch all of our girls in action. Let's see, girls and boys water polo both qualified for the NCS, North Coast sections, within a few years. So that was really cool that happened this year. And then girls volleyball is currently crushing it at NCS. They have their third round game tomorrow night versus Camp Olinda, so we want to send them a special good luck. And I believe cross country is also about to head into NCS. And we just have a lot of good stuff going on at Newark and just school spirit. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to mention that Rotary sponsors the Ironman Duel.
Oh, yes.
So we should go there and be at the opening ceremony.
Definitely. Yeah, we always have like a huge ceremony for our Rotary. We support you guys.
Great, thank you. Okay, next we move on to the superintendent's comments.
Just a few items for our consideration. Part of the idea that I want to talk with the board about briefly is the same idea about how do we structure our board meetings to focus in on our strategic imperatives a little bit more deeply, and I think that that's something that I do think it's important for us to continue working on. I know that we do have to carve out a little bit of time to begin doing some deeper retreats, if you will. So I'd like the board to start thinking about some time, maybe January, February, and then maybe another date later where we could have maybe a Saturday retreat to kind of begin going deeper on strategic planning and thinking about how are we aligning all of our initiatives towards the strategic plan. But it's kind of the purpose of having this in my report is I'm looking for some dates for you guys to think about. I don't need to have dates right now today, but I want you to think about it would be good to have something either January, February, where we could pick a Saturday to do a retreat. I believe I've got someone that's agreed to be a facilitator for free from CCEE that might help us work on that. And I know some of us have been having other conversations about how do we focus our time here in the board on the most important things. We know that right now budget's number one in the queue. So please think of those dates. If you have a date in February or January, get a few of those dates to Shar. We'll try to see where those align so we can start carving out time for a large board retreat with the cabinet. I'm thinking either a half day or a full day, Saturday or a day that is easy for people to attend. So please keep that in mind. My next request is a little more specific. I would like to request a deeper study session to be scheduled November 29th. if that's possible. I know that Mr. Preciado, usually the Tuesdays, that Tuesday's not good, but I did try to look at the Wednesday. Just a place for us to get together. By that point, we'll be able to go much deeper into the budget. And that would probably be, we might have some small housekeeping items, but largely would just be a budget study session and potentially some closed session items, but not a lot. But I think that this is really, I'm feeling a need for an additional budget study session.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine.
What time? I might be able to do earlier than 5 this time.
Yeah, we'll take it if we can do it.
So,
Is that a Monday, Tuesday?
It's a Wednesday.
It's the Wednesday
The
after
29th is a
Thanksgiving.
Wednesday after
After
Thanksgiving week off.
Unfortunately, I will be at the CSBA annual,
Wednesday?
education conference.
I thought it starts on Thursday.
The delegate assembly meets on
Yeah.
Wednesday, and I'm flying on Tuesday to be down
Down
there
to
for
LA.
an early Wednesday meeting.
Okay, got it.
I was just trying to find a time before we got too close to December. We could look at the first week of December. I just think that's getting close to the end.
what about Monday,
Yeah, what about Monday?
27th?
Let me look.
The 27th?
Can you do earlier, Monday the 27th?
I'd like it in the afternoon if we could do it.
I can do Monday.
Monday the 27th, we could make work. Let me see.
In the afternoon.
I think that might be a conflict with the CCE retreat. Yeah. I have a conflict. I can't move on Monday.
Tuesday, you have a conflict on Tuesday?
I mean, I could do this November 21st, but I know how folks.
I'll be out of town.
No, it's gonna be a tough one.
Would moving it back one day to Thursday the 30th help? Or that doesn't help you at all? For CSB?
She'd be done, she's
I'll
down.
be there
Okay.
through Saturday. Perhaps we can have a doodle sent to us, and we can, with some alternate times.
Yeah, Shara and I will work with you on that
Okay.
behind the scenes. We don't need to take a lot of time now. And I've got a couple of ideas that might work. Depending on the contents, if it's not heavy on staff requirements, I will be here on the 21st. But I want to make sure that if there's stuff we need staff for, that we're not asking them to do it on the week they have off.
Yeah, I'm out of town on the 21st.
Okay, all right, then let me,
And you said the 27th you had a conflict in the evening. Do you have a conflict in?
I have one all day that day,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If it was, yeah, I would have been able to make that work. Let us work on it.
Okay.
Let us work on that. So think about retreat dates, and then Shar and I will work on this November study session as a more urgent matter. And the last item is, we did spend 3 days with the California legislative staff, and we're able to really, I feel, reinforce the concern around the funding gap in California. And they really got an earful from staff of how we were feeling that in a district like ours. They were very much inviting us to still have a voice and stay in touch with them, but I thought it was healthy that at least they're coming to see what happens on the ground level. That hasn't happened. It's the first time I've ever seen that happen, from a legislative visit to see what's happening with LCAP. So we had a good voice in that, and I know some board members came and sat in on some of the sessions with us, and I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that it's spurred some other conversations, and I'm still trying to chase down those strands to see if we can get some additional dollars and support for our district.
They have a lot of questions.
They did have a lot of questions. Yes. That concludes my report at this time.
Thank you. Next, we have a staff report.
Yes.
Ms. Salinas?
Good evening. Good. Perfect. So this evening, speaking of November 27th, so we're anticipating the public release of the new California dashboard. If you remember, Director Amy Black had been here previously to share updates as we're moving along. But today's work is actually to review the local indicators and to remind you that the state of California is still working through this. We're still looking at pilots, and every week we get a new indicator that's revealed to us. And so hoping to bring that information as it comes forward. So the first thing is just a reminder around the indicators that are by priority. So if you look at the left-hand side, priority 1 through 8 on the left-hand side is essentially what are all of our priority indicators. If in the green, from priority 4 through 8 is something that the Department of Education does for us. And so that's all rooted in our test scores for English learners, our graduation rate indicator, and so forth. But each school district has to prioritize their own local indicators. So on the right, on my right is the basic conditions at school, implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, and then a local climate survey. So because we are in the new pilot stage of this with the state of California, what they've actually done is just a survey to be able to do this and to have the conversation. Every school district is having this conversation at their school board level before December 1st. And so we're here tonight to share that information with you and to hear from you. A little bit about the 4 local indicators. If you think back to like the Williams Act, it's pretty basic. And so we're anticipating that this is going to change as the Department of Ed starts to see how this rolls out, that it's really not quite enough. But to share with you is that we've met with our Williams Act schools. They all have the appropriately assigned teachers, access to instructional materials, and per Williams have their functional school facility. So that's a met for a local indicator. In terms of priority 2 for implementation of state academic standards, it's a tool that they give us to work with, and it's a survey, and per the survey, we have met it. In terms of parent engagement, the parent engagement is based on parent surveys. And so we use the superintendent survey from last year. And this is all based on last year's work also to share with you. And so we were able to look at the parent survey that was done last year that the superintendent rolled out community-wise. And so we were able to meet that basic indicator. And then we looked at the final, which is school climate. And what we used for that was the CHICS data. And the data is that where students are surveyed as to how they feel at school, do they feel safe at school. It has some aspects of TUPE with tobacco use and so forth. But what we found was, although we met the basic requirement with the state, that is something that we want to investigate for this year so we can survey more students. It's an optional, so we do every other year of grade span to do the CHIC survey, but we're looking at expanding that for this year so we can have more tangible student data so that we can get ready for when the state says, this was basic, this was enough, but let's do deeper work around that. I do want to highlight in terms of the parent engagement, we're working with the Alameda County Office of Education and CCEE. Jason Arenas, who is the point person at the county office, is actually looking at some of the work out of Harvard as to how parents are truly engaged partners at the school site, not just the bring the donations, sign up, to help with duty, but deeper work of what parent engagement truly means. So we're starting to do that work with our parent partners and also with Jessica Saavedra and some of her work with our DLAC teams and school site councils. So this is just to give some credits to where we got the slides and the information, but essentially it's information only to let you know that we're waiting for the public release on November 27th. There will actually be a webinar, and so everyone's kind of waiting on that. We are hoping to get some preliminary access the week of Thanksgiving, so we will be here waiting for that so that we can actually start to prepare for having it roll out communication-wise to our parents and families. Because again, it's the new accountability system. Folks are still learning a lot about it. We've moved away from the API and the rankings and all of that, and we're moving more towards the dashboard. So it's continuing that work. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mrs. Salinas, for the report. Can you tell me again on November 27th what actually is happening on that day?
So if you recall the dashboard that had the different colors of meeting the standards or not, that will be publicly released. So we're hoping to have some access the week of Thanksgiving week so that we can start to get prepared to do that, but it's the new updated indicators and dashboard.
And when are you going to share that with the board at the?
So if we can have access the week of Thanksgiving, we'll certainly share that out with you all, but it will be embargoed until the public release the following week.
Right, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing, which is the Sunshine Proposal, reopener for Newark Teachers Association contract. The schools. The California Education Code requires that both parties sunshine their initial proposals for reopeners, at which time the public has the opportunity to provide input. So that is what this public hearing is all about. So I will open this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak to this issue? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. Next, we have comments on non-agenda items. We have quite a few, so I hope everyone that's speaking will go through them as quickly as they can. We do limit public speaking for non-agenda items to 3 minutes, and there will be a timer to keep you on track if you need to be. So the first person is Carrie Knoop.
Good evening. There's one remark I would like to make about the budget. So I've been looking around to look at what neighboring districts, what their expenditures look like. And of course, the other districts are of totally different size than Newark. In fact, Newark is probably one of the smallest districts in Alameda County. So what I looked at is the cost per ADA. And of course, every district is a little bit different, but I think it's an interesting guideline to take a look at, how much do we spend per kid on certain things. And so I looked at that and I sort of compared it, and I looked at the things that popped out. And one of them was, for instance, insurance. We spent almost double the amount of insurance as our neighboring districts per child. And being a small district, I can understand that you have more overhead with buildings and maintenance and even supervisor salaries because you're a smaller organization. But insurance, so I think that's something you might want to look at to see if we can cut expenditures there. The one is our OPEB liability. I think it would be interesting to look if it's legally possible to actually sell these liabilities to an insurance company or to a big financial institution that can package these liabilities and get a better return on the money rather than a small organization. A school is very limited what they can do, how they can invest the money for future payments. So it may be interesting to see if we could actually sell these liabilities and get a fixed amount of money that we basically can save money. Another thing that I think really stands out is our operational housekeeping services. It's really a lot higher than neighboring districts. And I think that's probably related to the fact, or mostly related to the fact, that we are very small and we have room. We have a lot of extra room. But still, even taking that into account, we do spend a lot in that area. So again, I think it's important to compare what neighboring districts do looking at a cost per child and then see if there's something that we can learn from other districts and say, is there anything we can cut there? So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Knoop.
I'm sorry, President Thomas, but I have a point of order. We've been having the budget workshops from 5 till 6 at just about each one of our meetings. And during that time, we do ask for public comment on the workshop, which is the budget. So we probably need clarification on whether, since we're having it then and we are talking about the budget, then we wouldn't, it's considered an agenda item. So it wouldn't be public comment on it's my, just my understanding.
Yeah.
But maybe something we can
I don't
talk
believe
about.
that we can require people to come early for a
Study session.
study session. And, okay. Mr. Liang?
Good evening. everyone. So I'm sorry. I am going to kind of comment a little bit on that session, and I didn't. This is my first time speaking to you guys as a non-teacher. So, as some of you guys know, I taught at the high school for 7 years. I'm not teaching there this year, but I did purchase a home here because I really believe in this community, and I really think that this school district has a tremendous amount of potential. And, you know, I come to you with 14 years of teaching experience. And one of the greatest frustrations I had teaching at the high school was I was never made aware of any goals or targets that I was supposed to be aiming for. In fact, I probably just created my own. I'd survey my students, see what my approval rating was. It's around 70%. Hey, most people liked what I was doing, okay? My rocketry program, over 60% of my students attended a 4-year college. Over 80% ended up going to a 2-year or a 4-year program. So what I'm coming at with you guys today is that we need some sort of metrics. We need some sort of system of measuring the effectiveness of our programs. And I was very frustrated when I saw at the studies session, like, for example, you know, not picking on certain things, but like the education effectiveness evaluation system, the E3. I've been a part of this program. To me, it was never really made aware, like, how do I know this is an effective program? How, you know, like, am me working with this other teacher, counseling this teacher, and I was also being counseled by another teacher, was it making me a better teacher? I mean, and then in many ways, we get asked, we provide data to you guys or to somebody by taking surveys. We never find out what the survey results are. And, you know, to me, it's really frustrating because survey data is essential because it's a metric. It's a way to say, you know, how good is this person, or how did they improve, or what are, that could be some way. Because right now I know we can focus on test scores, graduation rates, and everything else. But, you know, I realize this is too late, you know, because by December you got to make these cuts. But I think with crisis comes opportunity, and this is a time to change our culture because, you know, in the past we've talked about being evidence-based and data-driven, but this could not be further from the truth. And so please, I want you guys to please consider that, you know, like, at least this year is still not over, you know, can we still set some target goals? Because I will tell you this, in 2007, one of the great things that happened at our high school was that we beat JFK on our test scores, and that's because we highlighted it to our students. We said, this is what we're aiming for. We want to beat Kennedy. This is what they're scoring, and this is what, you know, we can beat them. And, you know, sometimes just competition breeds innovation, and so please, you know, let's set some targets for our teachers to aim for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Virginia Peters.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Peters. Last week I wrote an email to the school board and dropped off books titled The Leader in Me. The Leader in Me teaches the 7 habits of highly effective people to staff and school children that have transformed participating schools. Earlier this year, Margaret Gould and I attended Leadership Day at Bishop Elementary School in Sunnyvale. You could tell right away something was going on there. Registration tables were beautifully decorated and staffed by 5th and 6th grade students. My host made eye contact, shook my hand, introduced himself, and provided registration instructions. As I filled out my name tag, the student made small talk, and soon we were speaking of my travels to Maine and his to Virginia. There was a vibe as we entered the cafeteria. As I spoke to the parents around me, you could see their excitement. Audience chairs filled quickly for the 9 to 11 program. One of the students said 3, 2, 1, and the whole auditorium fell silent. Students led the program, made introductions, and finally became our tour guides. Teachers gave testimonials of the Leader in Me, changing their teaching methods and their personal and home life. Parents testified how the Leader in Me was already positively impacting the younger and older sibling of the students. The best part was the last 20 minutes when we got to sit and talk with the kids. They said the worst problem was bullying, which has dropped off. An older brother of one of the girls has vowed to help her get to college, a family first. My student group was worried about attending junior high because they know the Leader in Me is not taught there. So they have promised to stick together. Today I'd like to use habit 6, synergize, which is to seek out other people's ideas to solve problems, because I know that by teaming with others we can create better solutions than any one of us can alone. Please add the Leader in Me to the December agenda, participate in a book club, and join me tomorrow if you're available at Christopher School for Visitation Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peters, and thank you for the information. Next, Margaret Gould.
Hi. Good evening. I'm here in support of the Leader in Me and my friend Virginia Peters. As a single parent, starting 20 years ago, I sought out leadership for my children because I knew that they would need more tools to carry them through life and become successful people. And today they are both in college, and my son will be graduating next month from college, and I feel very proud of that fact. As an educator in this district for the last 12 years, and now in the elementary level in a special day class, I see more and more that the lines are blurred as to what we should be teaching our children and what they should be taught at home. And I believe that it's our responsibility as a whole to give our children as much as we can. So in the special day class, because academics are such a challenge already for a lot of our kids, I have personally chosen to use some of the language and ideas from the Leader in Me and things that I have learned over the years and taught my own kids about being responsible people, being leaders of self, being socially aware, being collaborative, and teaching them some conflict resolution and management. And I have seen over the last couple years a maturity and a growth, and the children kind of adopting some of the language that I've been using very consistently throughout the last couple of years. For instance, I'd like to teach my children to really own what they do. A lot of times kids will say, oh, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I teach them, just own it, just step up and own it, because anything can be fixed, but you have to step up and you have to own it and be a leader of self. And my student the other day said, as Miss Maggie says, you just have to own it. And I thought, wow, that's so cool, because it stuck with him. And lots of things don't stick with the students that I teach. So I thought that was pretty awesome. I just feel it's necessary that we take a larger approach, and I think the Leader in Me is a fantastic program that would be so great to add to our young children's education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oliver Covey.
My name is Oliver Covey. I'm a student in Newark Memorial High School. I'm a junior, the president of LGBTQ Support Club, and I'm actually here with most of my club and Speakeasy. I'm a female to male transgender teenager, and there's one thing that could have made my experience a lot easier through high school. Not physically, I've been physically transitioning for almost a year. In November 25th, it will make my 1-year mark for hormone replacement treatment. The biggest problem that I have run into is substitute teachers and the first day of the school, not for reasons that you would think. I do not match the name and gender, and the name of, my name and gender do not match what is said in the attendance. When I say my name, it's my legal name. I've tried to change my student name and the name and gender in the attendance, but due not to changing it legally because of complications, I cannot do that. Let me remind you that changing your name and gender legally as a minor costs over $500. I planned to getting it changed over the summer, but my family ran into some problems that were costly, and now I might have to wait until I'm 18 to change it because of other problems. The district should come up with a way that you can change your name and gender in the system. Doing so would make things a lot easier for other transgender kids and future transgender students that would attend Newark Memorial High School in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Yap.
Hello. My name is Amanda Yap. I teach ceramics at the high school, and I'm also the advisor to the LGBTQ plus support club. Have been for the last 3 years. Been teaching at Newark Memorial for 4. And I've learned a lot from the kids in the club, so much. And I've actually witnessed this thing that Oliver's talking about with his name. And I was one of those people, because I was his teacher, I think my first year, and I used the name that was in there. And it really, he was really very good about it and came up to me and said, please don't use that name. And he has to go through this all the time. And it's unnecessary. It's an easy fix. And I'm here to talk about that, but also about gender neutral bathrooms, which I know is kind of a tough area for districts, but a lot of school districts in California are adapting or adopting them, I should say. So San Jose Unified is doing it. And a few weeks ago, I went to a conference called the, what was it called? The Teaching for Social Justice Conference in San Francisco. Really amazing. Veronica Bulwark told me about it, and she was Teacher of the Year, in 2016. So, it's good. And I went to a workshop on how to support our LGBTQ students, help them graduate. And there were a lot of issues that came up. One of them was pronouns and names, what the student, wants to be called, but also the bathrooms. And I really brought up that issue because I know it's something that's important to them. And at the workshop, we had 3 kids from Cypress High School near San Jose, and they were there to talk about their experiences. And I've heard a lot of those stories through my own students, but when I asked them questions about the bathrooms, they were like, you know what, we had people who they helped us out with that. We haven't had any issues. And really, it's been something that's just, it makes them safe. Everybody deserves, they all have the right, sorry, I'm getting a little nervous here. They have the right to use a bathroom that aligns with their gender by law. And all we have right now is a tiny little bathroom, and the office is out of the way for them, and it makes them late for class, and it's not helping them. They have to go through the back, through the office, and it's also making them appear kind of special and different too. So I think it's something that we could adopt here too.
Thank you. Thank you. Superintendent, perhaps you can keep the board apprised in the Friday update of this issue.
I didn't know it was just one bathroom. I had asked for more, but I'll keep working on it.
Thank you. Next, Logan Alcasiba.
She was beaten with a shovel and a frying pan. She was strangled with a rope. She was hog-tied and buried in the Sierra Nevadas. She was Gwen Amber Rose Araujo. This is Newark's narrative when it comes to transgender people, and that narrative still hasn't improved enough. Attending Newark Memorial High School, attending Newark Junior High School, attending Snow School, I've dealt with problems my whole entire life here. I've had some great experiences, but I've experienced some of the worst. And it's because of all these bathrooms, all these name and gender issues that we have. It's because of sports. It's because of all these sorts of things when it comes to transgender students. And we really tried as students to make as much change as possible. We developed the transgender presentation, the LGBTQ plus support club. These 2 projects were started by students by students, not the school district, by students. Students were the ones who had to take it upon themselves to really make this positive change. And the change that we have, it's still not enough. We need the support from the district to make sure that every student has a fair chance to pursue their education, to pursue safety and collaboration with their fellow students and staff. We need this for both staff and students who do identify as trans or non-binary. It's not just an individual issue, it's a communal issue that all of us have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
I honestly don't know how I'm going to follow. So my students and former students, that was powerful. What I'd like to talk to you about is something much more simple than this. I mean, these issues are insanely difficult to overcome. But something as simple as, because we're not supporting our trans students enough, it's causing tardies, which is going to affect our ADA, which is going to affect our students being able to get to class. We have one restroom, and as Ms. Yop said, it's in the back of the copy room in the front office. If I have a student in my classroom who has to get to Ms. Yop's room, there's at least 4 different bathrooms that they might be able to pass before they get to that one little closet. And this room is about probably the size of that closet over there. It's tiny. This is also the changing room for our transgender students when they are going to PE, and there's only one of them. So they're going to be inevitably late for school, or late for class, every single time. Because instead of going to one of the easy to get to restrooms that every other student in the school has access to, they have to go all the way to the front office. Hopefully another teacher didn't decide to use that restroom, because it's not marked with anything to say that it's meant for transgendered students or it's meant as a student restroom. It's just another bathroom in there. And this is going to continue to affect our students. Already these students feel discriminated against, and these little things, it starts adding up. It's going to affect our students' ability to perform in class, ability to get to class, and in the end, this is the sort of stuff that leads to dropout rates. We need to do something for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we move on to old business and the amended declaration of need for fully qualified teachers.
So I'll move to approve, because I think the only issue was that it was not agendized separately last time.
I'll second.
Okay, unless there's a comment from staff, would you please vote? Do you want to make a comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, please vote. 5 ayes. Who seconded it? Mr. Rodriguez. Okay. Okay. New business, dashboard alternative school status for Crossroads High.
Good evening. As I stated before, our new process with the California School Dashboard is that we have a unique opportunity to really focus and identify and support our students at the alternative school. And one of the allowances from the state of California and Department of Ed is that we can actually take a vote tonight, and we're able to individually track our students at the alternative school and look at their achievement data separately from the district. And so by tonight's action, that would allow us to do that, and we could submit that to the Department of Ed.
So what do you want us to vote on? What do you want us to say?
So our recommendation is to approve as noted by staff, and that's to have the process for to see alternative high school data separate from the overall district data.
Okay. May I get a?
Is there some way that could be done for all students? Is that?
No, well, they have it because of the way that the McGregor campus and the individual programs that are there. So it's this is particular to alternative school placements.
But the process is there.
Correct.
So you're going to a big student database, and you're able to pull out students, which means if you can track one group of students, you can track them all.
Correct.
If you choose to.
Yes, but the way that, I guess every 3 years we're allowed to recertify, and this is for our most at-risk students. And so because they are at the alternative setting, the way that it sounds is that their scores come into the whole for the district, but this way we'll be able to pull out their score so we can support them better academically.
Are they still considered part of the district in terms of
yes,
scores? Yes, okay,
absolutely.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Please vote. 5 ayes. Now, notice of play equipment. We have a speaker, Ms. Parks.
Good evening. I'm very excited that you're finally finished with all of the playground equipment. I can tell you my grandchildren have enjoyed the structures at Lincoln. One of the things that it's nice that it's all done, but I know that part of the discussion on the onset was the maintenance, the long-term maintenance of the equipment that you've just spent quite a lot of money on. And there was discussion of having 1 or 2 district employees that would be able to maintain those facilities. So where it's nice that you're done with the completion of it. I don't know if there's an extended warranty on the equipment, but just to make sure that once that is complete, that you do have the staff that is trained to be able to actually maintain what you just spent a lot of money on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a question. Do we have anyone that's certificated and trained to do?
I believe we do, but I need to follow up to make sure.
Okay. With that, please vote. Thank you. Next, we have a contract with Facilitron. Superintendent, do you want to introduce that?
Yes, this is a contract that's entered for ratification. There is not a cost to the district for this contract, but it does define the relationship that we will have with Facilitron. We can cancel at any time, but we are going to try. Part of it is their role and where they make their profit is in charging fees to people from outside of the system that use our facilities. This is not intended to change the relationship we have with our existing partners and people that work with us currently. This is really potentially somewhat of a revenue building opportunity, and it also helps us manage and market our district in a little different light. But the contract is here for the board to review and for the public to view what it is and what it isn't. And but we'll see how it goes, and I think that if it's able to work the way that I would like it to work, we might be able to get some revenue in to pour back into improving facilities and pour back into making our environment nicer for the kids during the day as funded by outside of the day use. So that's kind of the idea behind it. Yes.
Yes.
In terms of their role, for in-house determining the use of facilities, what is the time frame that they have to do? Is it going to be shorter now? Are they going to have to, for example, if I'm a teacher and I want to have a room for a club meeting, how much time lag do I have to have before I sign up for that kind of thing?
Anything that's internal, we control. So we would just not put those things on the table. So for example, at the high school, if they know they have certain clubs until whatever day in whatever rooms, we would block that out, and that space is not available to be scheduled for anyone else. So it goes to internal people as a priority, and there's no charge for that, there's no fee for that. The only people that would incur a fee would be people from the outside using it, or it might be even as people from the outside using it at a sliding scale because we have a different relationship with an entity.
Have the people that are using the facilities now, have they been notified, and has there been a reaction from them?
So far, we're just starting to roll out our communication with it. We haven't heard much yet, but we're just kind of barely rolling it out.
Are most of the rates going up?
Up to some degree, yes.
So because there's a 6 to 10%.
Right.
fee that's either in the front or the back, depending on how we do it, but
Right.
it's still, they're still paying
Yes.
that. I assume that would be on top.
There will be some increase in fees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the increase in fees something the board, because I know we have approved the exhibits for the fee structure in the past. Is that something that should be coming to the board?
I can, as soon as I have that information, I can bring that to you. I know that I'm waiting to get an update, and there was a change in the staff at Facilitron, so I'm waiting to see where that comes back around, but I'm happy to provide that at a
We
future.
got something. I was trying to find it. We
Yeah.
did get a breakdown.
Do you have anything on that, Shar, do you recall,
I
on
thought
fees?
I thought there was one, because I looked and compared to the one in 2004 to see how the difference were.
Ms. Condon has some information. Can we call on her out of order? Do you mind?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Condon is raising her hand with some
Oh,
information.
You're president.
May I call on her out of order? Okay, Ms. Condon?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say we're supposed to be having a fee schedule meeting, the 29th of.
Okay, so we're working on it still.
Okay, so it's not
Okay.
complete.
Okay.
So, I don't know exactly where it's gonna go, but we're gonna be meeting, Sarah and myself and Susan from Facilitron are gonna be working on.
Okay, so we have our staff that working with the Facilitron.
Okay, I had, if you don't mind, in the interest of openness, so Superintendent, they're not charging us to do this, right?
No.
Okay, so is the increase in fees the reason for that, or?
No, well, they do make their profit from the rental fees, but they've been able to show a track record of increasing a lot of revenue for other districts that have used this outside of just normal use. So they plan to expand our use and market our use and have a little bit easier to access through the internet. And they do a lot more of the management. They have a whole management team that deals with customer service and all of that stuff.
Now, our, like the Boy Scouts, et cetera, they use our facilities. How is that going to affect them, if any?
Part of what my conversation with Facilitron for groups like that would be, my first question is, how many of our students do you serve? And I think the more students they serve, the less we're probably going to charge a group like that. So we want to have a sliding scale that really, if it's an organization that is really, many of them only serve our kids, like Music for Minors, for example, they serve a lot of our kids. We wouldn't be charging them outside of just the cost. So there's always a fee, even though it may be the least fee, but so those are the existing partnerships that we have to keep intact. So we wouldn't anticipate charging anyone that we've been working with that's been kind of our partner. They wouldn't be charged more unless there was a charge in the base fee that we have to look at for cost of custodian, which might happen because of other reasons.
If it's a curriculum identified group, then there's no charge.
Yeah, if it's a school-related organization or a school partner organization or somebody that, like for example, earlier we were talking about Alameda County Mental Health. That wouldn't be somebody we would charge this fee to. It's really largely for other entities that we haven't tapped into, organizations. I mean, if Amazon wanted to rent part of a building to do an event, we would charge them a full fee. But we would be willing to negotiate that depending on other factors, yeah.
So unless there's any other, I would like to second because Sierra wants to make a motion.
Oh.
If that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, I move to approve.
Second?
Okay, great. One question before that. I know we have had a price list that hasn't changed, or a fee list. Is that what you're going to be working on,
Yes.
adjusting that?
Yeah, we'll be bringing that back to the board. And I know, thanks for the clarification, Susan. So as soon as we have that, we'll bring it back to the board and we'll have more definition around who are our partners, and because we have to provide that to Facilitron, so we have to set different tiers of pricing for different organizations.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we'll bring that back to the board.
Please vote. 5 ayes.
That's the first time
Thank you,
Sierra's ever
Sierra.
done that. That's great.
Thank you.
Exciting.
You like that, huh?
I wasn't sure if I was, because I do it at the school site meetings and stuff and all of my other meetings, but I wasn't sure if because the role for my position isn't exactly like defined.
Right, it's slightly different in terms of your responsibilities.
Yeah, like at the CSBA meeting I went to last year, there was like a huge topic debate about that, like different
Interesting
functions, yeah.
Legally, I don't know if you can.
No, they are. It depends on your guys' choice if you want to
Our
give
choice.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will give you that
Okay.
ability. Okay, thank you. Next, we have our donations report.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Yes, that is on the agenda. Please speak.
Thank you. In the donations report, you see the generous contribution of the parents of Kennedy, who helped Kennedy School to resolve a problem where after a month the kids were mixed up in other classes, and that was undone. But I question whether that amount is correct. I think the amount that's listed is the cost of the teacher stipends, but more money was raised. And this may have to do with, something that came up in the audit committee meeting with respect to how certain donations are coming in front of the board and other donations not. But again, I think it's very important to recognize that I think it was more money than that. So again, it was great effort of the parents of Kennedy. Thanks.
Superintendent, could you have Mr. Richards?
I could tell you that is the accurate number of what was deposited in the district. I know there was fees that were taken out from GoFundMe, and there's some other detail behind it, but I can find out and get it to the board.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote. 5 ayes. Just briefly, I'll go over most of them, but not all of them. We have $775 for Birch Grove Primary, scooters for PE from Donors Choose, $1,000 to Birch Grove Primary from Donors Choose for Little League Gain Great Knowledge, $974 for Birch Grove Primary for Donors Choose, Printers for Young Authors Need Their Writing Published, $3,461 for Newark Memorial High School, Donors Choose, Tables and Stools for Classrooms, for Classroom 415, $9,760 for Newark Unified School District, Newark Betterment Corporation for the Young Authors Program, $1,600 for Newark Junior High from Richard and Susan Steele for classroom supplies. How nice. $7,260 for Kennedy Elementary, the one Mr. Knoop mentioned, for the overages stipend.
You should put the donor. You didn't say the
And the donors, Kimberly and Ryan McCarthy, who managed the GoFundMe page campaign, and there were many, many donors. $8,796 for Newark Memorial for Washington Township Hospital Development Corp. For the athletic trainer. $2,000 Birch Grove Intermediate for Newark Memorial High School boys soccer. And one used flute from Christine Clinton for Newark's elementary music program. And then there's quite a few birthday wish marquee listings.
You should name the past practice have been. You name all of them if you.
Okay, I guess so. So $5 to Birch Grove for birthday from April Holland and Brian Miller for birthday wishes marquee. $10 to Birch Grove Intermediate from David and Blanche Maculan, birthday wishes marquee. $25 to Birch Grove Intermediate from Darren K. Chinnan, birthday wishes marquee. $20 to Birch Grove Intermediate, Robert and Krista Colaretti, birthday wishes marquee. $6,000 worth of tables, 45 of them, to McGregor Center by Blue Star Company to use at McGregor where needed most. Total was $41,686.
Well,
Thank
nice.
you, everybody.
I just want to. Every donor is important, and we shouldn't skip.
I just thought there was a long list,
Yeah,
and that, yeah, you're right.
But if we recognize one, then we recognize all, or.
I stand corrected. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
Hopefully, this is every month that we.
Oh, yes.
Can raise this much.
So next we have an update to Board Bylaw 9250, remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits. Do I have a motion?
I'll move, but I would like to discuss it too.
Okay.
I'll move to accept.
And I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Crocker.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in page 3 of the document. It talks about health and welfare benefits for former board members. We don't have any health and welfare, to my knowledge, for any former board members. We do have former superintendents. I don't know that there's any board members that are getting, and Brian is not here. Does anybody know?
We probably need to find out.
I think we need, because I think that
I'm not aware of any, but that seems odd to me.
we definitely will not be having that, so I don't know whether.
Well, but I think I read that thing and I was concerned as well, but if you read what it says at their own cost later on in the next
But
paragraph.
it says here it should be no greater, so it should be, I mean, that's what we got rid of.
It implies that there's a monetary amount to it, but it's very clear that it is at their own cost.
Well, if there are former board members, we may legally have to. In other words, there are some retired management people that are getting full benefits. It was part of their contract, and they're grandfathered in. We can't get rid of that, from what I understand. So that I don't know that the board members were in that situation, and I don't know of anyone that is a former board member.
Well, again, I think Mr. Richards could check into that, but I'm not aware of any former board member that is getting full medical.
I mean, there's former board members that are still around. So they may well, I don't know what the law was at that point, but it would be interesting to find. So I question this. And there was something else, let's see, 9250.
Can we get staff to clarify that?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I don't know.
I'm looking at it right now. We can either strike it out and come back if we need to change it, or we could table it until we.
I think we need to table it. Until we find out.
Let's consider this a first
There's no
reading.
hurry in doing it.
We can do it. We can come back with the second reading.
There's a date there that I think that we want to.
But that's
in January.
adjustable. We can come back for another reading. I think I had a brief conversation with Brian about this because he had to be somewhere, and he's fine if we need to bring it back. I don't know of any other HR reasons that we wouldn't bring it back for another reading. Let us get clarification on that. Was there another item of clarification?
No, that was it.
Mostly it was the former board language?
It has to do with the former board.
Okay.
And compensation.
Let us work on that and let's table it.
Next, employee organizations. Tommy?
Hello again. I just wanted to remind you all that during budget reduction, our labor organizations are supposed to be involved in this, and so I'm hoping that maybe by the next board meeting, I know a new one was set up for just after Thanksgiving, that both labor organizations can come together with the superintendent and with any other involved party to make sure that we have our input and that we can talk to you all about our budget reductions before the December 14th deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going on to the consent agenda.
We have CSEA. She has nothing.
She passed. Okay. Next we have a consent agenda, and I would ask that if members of the public want to speak on this, that they come forward now before we consider this consent agenda. So, Mr. Kerry New.
For personnel items?
For consent.
No, number 7.
Anything under consent.
Oh, got it, okay.
Because it was.
It looks like there's two separate consent agenda personnel items.
We do have two
Consent
separate.
agenda non-personnel items.
Yeah.
You still haven't approved 17? Point of order?
We haven't approved
16.
Oh, we have to approve 16 first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the personnel report.
Second.
All those in favor? 5 ayes. Mr. Noop.
Good evening. I have a question about the rejection of claim, and it's basically a question. And since the board is doing the business of the people, and this is on the agenda, I think it's important that at least every member should ask a question if it's something not clear to them. So my question is that I understand that the Keegan Associates told the district that it should be on the board, which I find a little strange, actually. But my question is, for all, is Keegan acting as an insurance agent, or are they acting as an advisory? Because if they're acting as an insurance agent, then obviously just the fact that an insurance agent says, oh, we're not going to cover this, does not imply automatically that a district should deny the claim. And I assume if that's the case, that the board members are brought up to date with respect to the details of this claim, because of course you can't take advice from the district and an insurance company in good faith. But I think you do want to be diligent about that you at least know what the claim is about before you approve something. Now, if this is the other option, that Keegan functions as an advisory, which means that this could even be legally holding, because if they advise the district not to accept this claim, that's a strong statement. So I think the question is, the letter from Keegan, is that as an insurance agent or as a consultant? And if it is as an insurance agent, does the board have sufficient data to approve it? And again, you can approve it on good faith on advice of the district, but at least you need to know something about the case. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will entertain, or does any board member want to pull any item?
17.8 and 17.9.
Okay, 17.8 and 0.9 are pulled. Can I get a motion to approve 17.1 through 17.7 and 17.10?
John moved that we accept them.
Member Crocker already moved, so you can second. You can second.
She was very quiet when she said that.
So
I'll
Member
second.
Crocker moves, Member Rodriguez seconds. Please vote. Thank you.
I think Sierra might want to pull something.
Member Rodriguez was.
Wait, 17.1?
17.1?
Oh, we just.
So we have to change our motion.
Well.
So Sierra can pull it.
If you two are willing to amend your motion, you may. Jan, would you amend your motion?
I would be open to hearing. I don't know if she's looking for amending. I don't know if she wants to discuss it.
Do you want to discuss it or just comment on it?
On the
17.1.
17.1. Let's see.
The time to do that would be before we move on it, and since we
Well,
haven't
we were voting, and then you didn't raise your hand, and neither did she. Yeah, so.
So the vote was not complete.
No, we haven't voted on it.
We did vote. It was us three, and then it was in the process of before you brought it up. So I don't know.
No, it's still open as far as I'm concerned. We have a motion and a second.
So I guess, okay, let's do this. I guess.
Could I suggest that there is a room after the consent agenda for board comments on the consent agenda, and you could make your comments then?
Does it affect the actual?
The vote.
Does it affect the actual process of completing that?
So let's just discuss. 17.1. You wanted to make a point or discuss? Is that right? Oh, approve it. Oh, that. Oh, yeah. Then that's what we were doing.
But we're voting.
So we were voting to approve. We okay.
We take the whole group.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are voting to approve it right now.
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to call the vote again.
Please vote. 5 ayes.
Okay. All right. So then.
17, 18.
So it's
Okay, 17.8.
So you want me to discuss why?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to get a sense if, I know Mr. Richards not here, but if we can figure out, like, we've mapped out, we've approved already Fund 400 and the specific things, but it'd be good to, for me at least, to get a sense of, if we move forward with this, like, where are we at with the total amount? So we approved X amount of dollars. Approving this, where does that leave us? And then kind of that track record, right?
It is, we can pull it in a minute here. I can tell you that this is below the budget that was allocated for the school on the per pupil ratio, and there is some dollars left, but after this approval, I'll be going back to the school to revisit the balance of what's left on the wish list. There's some, I don't think it's a large amount of dollars left, but I don't know from memory, what was the total amount?
185 original budget, and this is 111,000 for these two items.
Okay.
So this is discretionary money the principal had.
No, this was the wish list that was approved.
That we approved. We approved.
And not to exceed that number.
Exactly.
So this is part of it. This
Based on
isn't the whole thing.
based on equity and based on.
That decision, we did not.
Yeah, this came up in our audit committee meeting, you were there, because the Fund 40 has a budget. What's remaining in the budget is technology and its 3-year rollout, the wish list, and the remaining curb appeal, landscaping that hasn't come before us yet. So we do have a budget, and Mr. Richards said that it would be possible when we do vote on something from one of the wish lists that we have a simple spreadsheet that tells us where we are in the budget, and I think that would be very helpful.
So we can do that.
So what I would do is I would move.
We have that.
I would move to approve this agenda item, and then with the understanding that at our next meeting we'll have an updated spreadsheet of where we are in terms of all of the programs, so that these are highlights that we have.
I can tell you that we can email that to the board tomorrow. Char's been helping me as I've taken over operations, and Char's been assisting, so we'll have that in your hands tomorrow or by email. But we are tracking per the original resolution and the dollar amount, and making sure that nothing goes over and it's within the parameters of those dollars. So I'm just happy that both 17.8 and 17.9 after a year are finally in the queue and ready to get an update. So.
Okay.
So I'd move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes.
And for 17.9. For 17.9, it was the same framework, so that's why I pulled both, because they were both. So I moved to approve.
Good.
Second.
Didn't you do both?
No, I did 17.8. So because I pulled it, so
Okay.
we have to.
We do
vote.
separately.
Yeah, so we have to vote.
I'm texting Coach K as we speak.
Move to approve 17.9,
Please vote.
and then Member Rodriguez seconded. Please vote.
Please vote.
Just a quick point of order. You said that we normally have board member comments on consent items, but I don't see that in here.
Yes, and I noticed that it's not there. In the past, Char, we have had board member comments on consent agenda items, so we approve everything, but we want to make a comment afterwards, and that allows us to do that.
Okay, because I remember last time I was, that's the whole process thing that I wanted to figure out. That's really frustrating, because in the past I was told I couldn't comment on a consent agenda item because we do not do that. So whatever the process is, let's just go with it and stick with it. It can't be sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We have committee reports, announcement requests right after. So whatever it is that we decide, let's just stick with it, please. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yes, but it has been there in the past, and it
past,
dropped out. It got dropped out inadvertently.
There was with that heated discussion with the Kennedy, I know I wanted to make a statement, and then President Wynn said that there was no conduct. There was no. So then I want to make sure that it's consistent with everyone, that we either allow it or we don't. But and let's not change
We've had it in the past, but I think as president, he made the decision to not put it in the parliament.
Okay, so with that, we move on to board member committee reports, announcement, requests, debrief, and discussion. Member Rodriguez? Well,
this would be Sierra's turn.
Sierra's,
if she wants
okay.
to say something.
Would you like to say something?
Tournament.
Okay. It's just really small. This is the first time we're going to this tournament, and this is once again a groundbreaking step for our girls wrestling team. There's going to be around 30 colleges there that we also get to compete alongside with college, collegiate and Olympic women wrestlers. So that will be a really good opportunity for our girls to be exposed to colleges, because a lot of us are planning on getting scholarships and are being currently looked at by colleges for wrestling. So that's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. I know some of you also, but I had a chance to see the all the Halloween that was done at the different sites, and I personally went to Snow for their event on Friday, the Friday before Halloween, and which is like a carnival. And all our schools do excellent work, and they also use it as a opportunity for them to fundraise, to raise money when they have those events, and so they're all good. I also had the opportunity, like the superintendent said, to sit and have the individuals that were there. I didn't realize there were going to be so many, asking a lot of questions, and they had a lot of questions for the board. And I happened to be the only board member that they were asking. I was hoping, why couldn't other board members be there? And it wasn't your fault. It was just that it's just the way it worked. And but I had the opportunity to thank them for visiting, you know, little old Newark, and hopefully the conversation we had with them will help us when we go visit Sacramento, asking for funding and additional funding for our schools. So I thought it was, I'm glad that Superintendent, that you put that together. And as far as the committee report, we did have a SELPA meeting, and we're just trying to work ourselves through the budget and making sure that, you know, everything moves forward. And we had a event last week, and it was at American High School for the Special Ed Olympics, and we'll be having another one that Newark's going to be hosting pretty soon. So make sure the board gets that information, because we'd like the board members to be there at the Special Ed Olympics. I think it's important that we show support for what's being done in the area of special ed. Okay.
What's the date on that again?
We just had one last week. I'm not sure when the high school's having theirs. We'll get that to you.
It's usually around, I believe, February or January.
Yeah, for basketball.
And it's all for basketball.
Right. Thank you.
We'll get it on the board calendar.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Crocker?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. One has to do with the liaison committee. We are working hard to find a date. We've got an agenda building. As we have more time, more and more things are added. So if there's anything that you want us to discuss with the city, or any insight you have, I know I've got some issues, and Frankie has some things, and so it should be a good discussion, because I think they're really open at this point to doing what we can do to support each other. So it was originally planned for this next week, and then it had to change. So it probably will be after Thanksgiving, hopefully. In January, okay, in January. So after the holidays. The second thing is, we are talking about, in December is when we usually have the new president take position, and we have the voting in terms of officers, and at that point we accept the governance handbook and the policies. And there's a couple issues I'd like to address before that meeting, and it has to do with getting the governance policy for censure, getting that up to date and getting it complete with the information that's found in the bylaws versus it's found in the policy. I have a letter that was sent, that we sent as a final letter to the grand jury that indicated what our policy was going to be, and I don't see it listed there, so I want to make sure that we get that cleaned up and we have the process down that we agreed upon to take care of. And then we were talking about getting together and having a meeting about setting up the process for a liaison committee, getting an ad hoc committee. So I don't know if we need to address that here, but I think that We are addressing issues in terms of how the board functions. And that's something that we want to make sure that we have clean guidelines that all the presidents will have in terms of procedure and expectations. So those are the three things that I have.
I did want to ask about the city school liaison date because thought we had settled.
I thought we did too.
And then it was gone. So if we could figure that out, for the strategic planning process, I'm thinking that from my perspective, it would be helpful to if we had as part of the conversation the dashboard indicators, because it could be a guide of what. Well, it is a guide of what we're accountable to, so it helps us frame the conversation. And then once we set the date, if we could see the agenda before, and with the agenda, if we can have a section that is outline of expected outcomes, so that we know at the end of that particular thing, this is what we expect to come from that. And it may be a series of strategic planning. I mean, strategic planning isn't just one thing, it's various retreats or various discussions. So it might, maybe we have a specific foci for the various meetings. So from my perspective, it helps map out how we're gonna move forward collectively, and then how we're gonna hold ourselves accountable by listing out expected outcomes. That's all I have.
Okay. I was glad to join Member Preciado at the Audit Committee meeting, and thank you, Superintendent, for going. I thought it was a very productive meeting, and we'll be meeting again in December. On another topic, you'll recall that about 3 or 4 times ago when we had a budget setting discussion, I suggested that we board members be able to give our ideas for budget reductions. And so I've been spending some time looking at ideas that I'd like to see part of the discussion as we move forward. And so I've created a document here that I would like to share with the board members to take and read. And I've got enough for staff. I think it's important that we be part of the process. As we come down to the deadline, we're going to be given a list that staff generates, and I think it's important that we be able to put forth our own ideas for cuts, not just say yes or no to cuts that are prepared for us based on input from community and staff. So these are my inputs, and I hope that folks will read them and hopefully consider some of them as they prepare potential lists for us to look at. And I think each one of us should do this. I think each one of us should have ideas. We've been on the board. Some of us are 12 years or more. Some of us have gone through the system. Some of us have had children in the system. Some of us currently have children in the system. So we know the community, we know the culture, and we know, that this is a difficult process and that we have to do it, really thinking it through. And hopefully the data and some of the ideas I put in here, I'm sure a few of the numbers are probably not completely accurate, but I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that they were clear and accurate. It's something for us and for staff to think about whether it's a worthy idea that we should consider. Yes?
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
Sure. I am not going to make such a list. I think that it's for information only, and you have done a lot of work with it, and I think that it's good for reading, but there should be no expectations that because it's a staff decision in terms of the cut, I think we can give directions and ideas for them to look, but I think it's something that our job is to do overall policy. Our job is to have the vision in terms of looking at what is good for the whole general thing in terms of specifics. Ideas can be thrown out and information be thrown out, but I don't think we should have an expectation that we're going to find that that's what they're doing. As much as they will get ideas from the district, from people in the community, I think it's important that they hear the ideas, but their final recommendations will be their recommendations coming from their level of expertise in their area.
And so I feel that we have as a board, it's our responsibility, because in the past we haven't always asked questions. We've approved one-time expenditures with one-time money that turned out to be ongoing. So in the past we have not really scrutinized and asked and involved ourselves. And I think in some of the things that I saw when I was looking at the data, it was, how is this going to impact students if we make this choice, which was on the list? And I think we need to ask the question, if it's going to impact students negatively, we need to set that direction. And we did set one piece of direction, and that was that we want the cuts to be as far away from the students as possible. And some of these cuts do impact students, and the way we make them and the priorities that we place on making these cuts can impact our decision on what to cut.
Right. And I have no problem with, reading through this, but personally, when you give it to staff, to me, that's micromanaging. And we depend on staff to give us their recommendations. We have the board sessions on the budget that we've had, and we'll continue to have. And that allows us an opportunity as a board member to share our thoughts.
This is a public document because it's not limited to staff. Anyone can have it.
Of course they can.
It's a public document.
And that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that, in my opinion, we pay a lot of money to staff and to do their job, and we depend on the expertise. And for me, I'm fine with that. And the discussions we have in open session, during our budget study sessions. But that's as far as I'm going to go as far as recommending or sharing my budget reduction considerations to staff. I'm just not going to do that. Okay. But not saying that you don't have a right to do that. That's just strictly up to you. Okay.
So here's my thoughts. And I think this is the intent of the superintendent, is that the reason we're going to have another budget study session is really to dive into the specifics and outline, like, this is the kind of proposal in terms of the specific programs that we're recommending, and then we can dive into whether it's your recommendations or other board members' recommendations, and then collectively we decide how we're going to move forward or at least inform the conversation, because we don't have to make the decision until December, but at least have that in-depth conversation. At least that's my understanding of the whole, of why you're looking to have another meeting in November. So then we can move forward in that way, and that's where we dive into the specifics.
Agreed. Okay.
Okay, Superintendent?
Just a few comments. First of all, the purpose of this next study session that I'm lobbying to get on after the break is going to be to go into the detail of where we're coming up with the 3.6 million. I don't know how much into the granular aspect of it we're going to get. I don't anticipate talking about a 0.2 section of a high school budget, but that is my intent, is for the board to be very comfortable and be aware of what we're recommending before we make the final recommendation. So that is the intent. I think that my last comment is really for our employees and for our community to really have time to be thankful for the things we do have in this country. I think we have a Thanksgiving holiday that's coming up and a Thanksgiving break, and I know Sierra doesn't want to take any time off, but I think we all need it. I think this has been a hard semester I know for our employees it has been. I know they work hard, I know they worry, and I think that I really do wish everyone to have a really nice break soon with their families, and just really kind of rejuvenate and recharge and come back ready for the next step. And I want everyone to have a good break and a well-deserved break. That's all I had this time.
Before we dismiss, could we do it in memory of our veterans that have given so much to our country, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I move that this meeting be adjourned in memory of our veterans who have done so much for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.